Nighthaven Labs has been out for a little while now, and I've got to be honest, it's actually a pretty good map. Sure, the map can feel like one of those hedge mazes you did as a kid, but once you learn it, each of the 3 sites commonly played feel quite balanced and robust, both on attack and defense. In this video, I'm launching a new series. Operator tier list videos are sometimes a little bit general and may not be as helpful for players looking to improve on specific maps and sites. That's why I plan to make an operator tier list for every meta objective on every single ranked map, highlighting a few operators on each and showing tips, tricks, and ideas you can take note of and use in your games. Let's jump into Nighthaven, starting with Basement. Here it is, the first tier list. Each list will be split by attack and defense to keep things nice and tidy. It goes from S all the way down to F, with special categories for underrated operators and pocket picks, being operators you can pick in very specific circumstances to catch the other team off guard. I'm going to deep dive into these operators specifically. Azami is a very strong pick on most sides, creating extra cover and headaches for the attack. Here are a few placements to experiment with on Basement, with a primary focus on denying breach, picks, and entry. Goyo. This one is purely a Theorycraft pick and not one I've personally tried or even widely seen in my playtime so far. Generally speaking, Goyo is great for extremely one-dimensional sites such as Bank Basement. As such, Goyo's Vulcan canisters are fantastic to counter attacks trying to brute force their way through double or single breach. They can be used to deny entry and or boost plant in an effective manner. Clash is a very cheeky pocket pick on this objective. She can be used to defend the main double or even single breach in an extremely aggressive manner. I already made an in-depth guide on this strategy, so click the card in the top right for more info. Mira finds herself in F tier, a rarity for such a generally powerful operator. Admittedly, this may reflect my lack of creativity, but I've been struggling to find effective mirror windows that don't risk weakening the rest of the defense and taking away critical utility such as deployable shields. Here are a couple of examples that might work, but these entryways can be more proactively defended with other operators on this list. On to attack then, and here's the list. These are the operators that I want to talk more on. Hard Breach, Ace, Thermite, Hibana. I would highly recommend bringing 2 out of 3 of the primary hard breaches. I've personally opted for Thermite and Ace in most cases, but Hibana is always useful in ensuring hatches are open. The team isn't running a secondary hard breach. To counter a bandit effectively early in the round, combined hard breach with Thatcher or secondary EMPs hit both walls simultaneously, and you can ensure that at least one gets breached, so there's some form of pressure. I've put Osa in the underrated category for her ability to pressure breach and cut off rotations, keeping in mind that, like any strategy revolving around Talon shields, you have to be vigilant against impacts and nitro cells. Buck was close to S tier, and in the hands of a strong vertical player, he probably can be. Not only does Basement have very strong vert potential, but his secondary hard breach gadget is also great for applying pressure on the 2 staircases. I do, however, recommend learning the vertical angles in a custom for maximum effectiveness. Working our way up a floor, we find ourselves in Kitchen. Here is the list for defense, where I'll be highlighting the following operators. Kitchen is another standout site for Azami. In fact, it is probably the most broken in terms of site operator combinations that we've seen in a while. This objective in particular has an obscene amount of head glitches and boost angles, and if you take the time to learn some lineups, you are going to make the entry for attack a headache-inducing hellscape. Kaid is great on Kitchen. He gets extra value from his claws. He's able to deny the exterior hatch and freeze walls with 1 claw and the reception breach with another. Of course, they try to mix up the placement, especially if the other team is using secondary EMPs, just so it can be a little bit more difficult for the attack to hit. I think Castle has some good potential on this objective. The strongest case for this operator is actually his ability to fortify the single kitchen window. That can wreak a little bit of havoc if the attack are trying to exploit it. You can also use the barricades to extend a little bit and create more space for the team. And finally, Pulse. I think he will slowly work his way up the tiers if the meta trends where I sort of expect. Vertical play has become commonplace on this objective already, and I think it's only going to become more and more powerful as attackers try to flush out defenders on site, behind shields, and keep at barriers. Pre-placed nitros and general information from Pulse could be a very effective counter going forward. For attack, the list shapes up as so. I want to look at these operators specifically. On the vert, you have Buck and or Sledge. Vertical play is critical on this objective to help clear utility and hopefully isolate a pick or two before the final execute. Buck and Sledge are both great for this, and the decision as to which you should play or both really depends on the need for grenades and your overall comfort playing on 1-speed Sledge. Ultimately, either is S tier and will help apply much needed pressure on the site. Generally, Blackbeard is terrible, but in specific circumstances against ultra aggressive teams, he can actually be okay. Kitchen is one of those instances. There are two main places to post up and camp the entire round, hoping for defenders to overpeak. The main one, the first one, is kitchen window, and the second is reception once the breach is opened up. Sit, wait, and farm. If utility is running low, Fuse might be a good alternative to help clear the defensive setup from above, and if you get lucky, pluck a kill or two. Of course, the biggest weakness of Fuse is how exposed you are while deploying the cluster charge, especially against a pulse, but with attacker repick, you should just make sure that there isn't one to counter you, and you might be able to get away with it. Moving on, we head to the top floor. I won't be covering storage in this video simply because I haven't played it, nor have I seen it played much at all. So until it becomes common in the meta, I think it's best to just leave it for now until I can actually give an informed opinion. Here is the tier list for top floor attacks, where we'll be focusing on the following operators. Thermite Thatcher, a duo as old as time itself. They offer a lot of value on this objective. You probably want Ace or Hibana for extra coverage, allowing Thermite Thatcher to work the main breach and then the connector room into sight. With these two walls open, the defense will be under a lot of pressure. Simple, but effective. Generally speaking, Nook is extremely powerful with her ability to lurk and find kills, plus grenades in kit. On this site, use Nook to offer a pinch from warehouse or even up blue stairs in the mid to late round. There's also potential for vertical grenade play on this objective if you can coordinate information with the team. Montang is not an operator I have experimented with a lot on this site, but I think the theory crafting is sound. Warehouse can be thought of similarly to garage rafters on Clubhouse. Use Montang to create space on rafters with a player supporting close by, another at the exterior breach, and one blue stairs to form a strong back push. A powerful pocket pick for main breach. Glaz can be used to apply pressure, but only apply this when Warden is not in play. Use smoke grenades once the exterior breach is open and catch any rotating defenders off guard. This will probably not be super effective in high ranks as defenders are unlikely to peek, but at a low to mid level, I can see this being successful. I'm also a big advocate for smokes on execute, so don't be afraid to play Glaz for the late round either. On defense, the list looks as follows. I want to highlight these 4 operators specifically. If you're strong at bandit tricking, this is the objective for you. As is often the case, you'll need to be mindful of vertical pressure, but a well-played trick can help swing the round towards your team massively. With plenty of long lines of sight and the potential for strong smoke from the attack, Warden is quite strong on this objective. Just be mindful that Warden is less effective in the repick era of Siege, so perhaps consider a Solace to deny information in the prep phase. Mirror makes the pocket tier for one specific window placement. This one on the connecting wall gives good lines of sight towards the breach and electrical pushes. It is, however, quite exposed to blue stairs from behind and warehouse, so use sparingly and don't be afraid to punch the mirror if the attack doesn't commit to a front push. This is another objective where Clash can be useful in denying the exterior breach and also in scouting mid-round information. If a back push is imminent, trying to filter past Clash in these narrow corridors can be very difficult. If a more default connector attack comes through, I'm skeptical on Clash's effectiveness because of the large number of crossfires, but a competent player can probably still stall lots of time. Well, that will conclude the video. I really hope this format is something you enjoyed and you left with a couple of ideas you can introduce in your own games. Any feedback is appreciated, so let me know in the comments what you did and didn't like. With that said, subscribe for future videos, and I'll see you again soon.